Although the tracking is very important for astrophotography, but those who don't have the go-to mounts, this technique is for them. Like they can easily capture the whole disk of the moon without tracking. Hello, hi to everybody. So this video I'm making how I captured the moon. I post one photograph in the astrophotography group, which was appreciated by most of them, and there were dozens of queries, dozens of questions which I have to answer. For that I have made some points, and one by one we'll get to those questions now. Alright, let's start. So what is the most important thing that we require to win the situation? That is the right equipment and the right skill. So what is the right equipment? Right equipment is my telescope and the right skill is the Photoshop. Next thing is the gear. Many people are using the DSLRs with the kit lenses, or maybe with the good lenses like 300 mm lens or the 400 mm lens. They can get a pretty good image. The other thing is like the telescope and the DSLR. DSLR has a bigger sensor, so while photographing the moon, which is ultimately a very biggest object in the sky, which we can see with our naked eyes, so to capture the moon I suggest you to go for a bigger sensor. And I know there will be some noise levels which we can reduce in the Photoshop. That can easily be done. Tracking. So why tracking is important, why it is required, why it is not required, let's try to understand that. See, to capture moon, what I have seen, tracking is not required. And even if you go for a tracking, then it could be some other thing on the moon which you have to image. Like tracking is not required for the full disk. Tracking is required for the surface feature. And for the surface features, you don't need a DSLR. For the surface feature, you need a planetary cam. But if you have to go for the full disk of the moon, like whatever you see it in the sky, so just try to do one thing. Take the DSLR, break the moon in portions in your mind, and try to focus on those portions. Like try to photograph those portions, maybe 6, 8, 10, whatever they are present in the sky at that moment, and then try to merge them in the photograph, nothing else. The main thing while imaging you have to take care of, that is the focus and the collimation. You can't adjust or you can't compromise with the focus and the collimation. Once you do that, your image is going to get distorted and maybe something or the other. So that is the key point which you have to take care of. Alright, now the next thing is, many people try to capture the moon in a single frame. Even I used to do it when I was a beginner, but by the time when I started putting some more effort in the astrophotography, I noted that if I just go for the portions of the moon, that will actually help me. To get more clear image of the moon. And I think there was one image of the Mount Aepinus which I saw from the NASA's LRO orbiter, and I always dreamed to capture that frame like that. So with this telescope and sitting on the earth, it's not 100% possible to capture that thing, but near to that we can do. It's possible. Now the telescopes. So you should use a telescope or you should use a camera. So for this I have one very good explanation for you at my level. It's not that high, but a basic level. For the telescopes which are 6 inches or greater, they are a good telescope. You know, you can easily capture moon and you can easily capture good features of the moon. And like the telescopes which are 6 inches and under, for that you actually need a Barlow lens. It's your choice. If you use a Barlow, you can actually take some more features out of that picture. The greater telescopes like the 8 inches, 9, 10, 12, 11 and 14, 16, whatever it is, whatever brands you use, for those bigger aperture telescopes, you don't even need a Barlow lens, because already the aperture is so big that your whole picture of the moon cannot be focused on a single sensor. So the features will be in a big detail, you know, quite large detail. So these are some key points which you have to keep in the mind, and try to go ahead with the imaging now. Let's go. All right, now let us get to the imaging session. Now the main thing while imaging which we have to keep in mind, that is the portions of the moon which we are imaging, they have to be nearly at the center so that the focus is even throughout the picture. This is the first frame. I'll go for the second frame and see now the second most point which you have to keep in the mind, the craters which were there in the first picture, they have to be in the second picture because photo merge actually detects those pixels and then only it merges. So these two craters are there in the first picture, so I am just going to take them again in the second picture. Let it reach near the center. The only technique which I follow is this technique, and I have it pretty sharp. Let's see. Yeah, so that's the second image. Let me get to the third one now. So this crater was present in the previous picture. I keep this crater. Now what is astrophotography all about? That's all, patience, nothing else. We have to depend upon weather, the right scene conditions, and so many other things. And we just have to wait for the weather to get clear. Alright, now you can see the light on the moon has start coming bright now. When it will be near the center, it will be a bit bright. I think more bright. Alright, so this is the case. Now let's go for our next frame, slightly upwards. And this was Mount Apennis region, which is one of my favorite region. Now you can see the layering, it is there. See this, the grainy structure, the craters. We'll get it. And whenever you see this a little bright here, capture this. All right, now the next is we have to go towards the side of the disk. Okay, so in this case, what I suggest, while taking the side of the disk, try to keep that disk, like the curve of the disk, this one, try to keep that near to the center. This will help you while imaging. Although this contains very less features, yeah, this is pretty good. This is the first. Let's go for the second then. Alright, this is the second frame. Let's go for the next then. Let the disk reach the center. Now you can see the craters are actually very clear today. That is all dependent upon the sky. And the disk is almost near to the center. Yeah, fine. And I think the last portion is left now. Okay, we'll go for this one. Yeah, the craters are very sharp today. Very, very sharp. Alright, that's the last picture. So here is our data. Let's switch off the camera and then we'll get to the work. Alright, Now, these were the images which we got from the camera and the telescope. Let's go further and check all the images. Looks good. I think, yeah, the data is pretty fine. It's good. All right, that's the one. All right, now what we have to do is we'll open the Photoshop and we'll try to merge all these photographs in the Photoshop. In the Photoshop, I'll check the automate, photo merge, browse. So I'll go for the portions, select, okay, and simple. Now let this do its own work. And after the Photoshop has done its work, so the photograph will look like this. So there are some cracks. Those cracks are like from where the image has been joined by the Photoshop, whatever it is. Now the next thing we need to do is we have to press Ctrl E. You have to select all these layers, press Ctrl E so that the photograph gets merged. So here it is, and you need to try to save this photograph once and save it as a TIFF format, and it will increase the size. It's okay. And if you want to crop this image, just have this crop tool and make the resolution accordingly, whatever resolution you want. And I find it like this would work for me. Yeah, nice and good. And press enter. So here it is. You can save this image as well and name it as crop. And now the next portion is the editing. So we'll go for editing from this filter, the camera raw filter. And now this is up to a choice, like whatever you want to do, the way you want to do, you can proceed. Pretty sharp. The features are quite clear. You can check this. Yeah, that's it. And I think we'll meet soon now. Sorry, I skipped a few points while explaining the imaging. So that was like the exposure time, and why I choose lesser exposure time, like I choose 1 by 160 or 1 by 200. The main reason behind that is there is atmospheric turbulence when the light is coming from the atmosphere. To minimize that turbulence, I choose a lesser exposure so that uh, when the light is actually reaching my telescope or my camera, in just a very small fraction of second, I can capture that frame. That's the trick. One more tip. Whenever you're trying to photograph the moon, just go for the first quarter. The first quarter contains a lot of crater depths and the feature details. So your photograph will be mesmerizing.